can you record?
Yeah,
I see it. Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
All right. I guess we should start with introductions.
Okay.
And I can start. My name is Sala DeRosier. I prefer she, her pronouns. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, but now I live in Grayton. I'm a sophomore at Annalee. I am the action lead for our hub, and I've been working with Sunrise since we started in around April. And I'm also a junior commissioner on the Junior Commission on the Status of Women for Sonoma County.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, I can go next. So I'm Rachel. My preferred pronouns are she, her. I'm a sophomore also at Annalee High School, and I'm the training lead for our Sunrise Hub. So I was one of the people who started this hub at Annalee during the summer because we were concerned about the state of our country, and we wanted to help out the people who are less fortunate than us right now, as well as I'm very passionate about stopping the climate crisis. So yeah, we grew up down in the Bay Area. My twin is Amy, and we moved up here a few years ago. So yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
All right, I'll go next. My name's Amy, and yeah, I'm Rachel's twin sister. So my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs. I'm the hub coordinator of our Sunrise Hub, and I also got involved around April when we started this hub. Just like Sala, I am also a junior commissioner on the Junior Commission on the Status of Women for Sonoma County.
Okay. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
My name is Nora Hagidis. I prefer she, her pronouns. I am on the BLM visibility team for Sebastopol, and I started in June, I think, here, and I'm a freshman at Santa Rosa High with the ArtQuest Theater program, and yeah.
Okay, nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so to start off, we thought we'd go through like an overview of our goals for this meeting and tell you a little bit about Sunrise.
Sure.
So Sunrise is a national youth-led movement working to combat climate and social injustice and create millions of good jobs in the process. We're aligned with the Movement for Black Lives, and we also organize around passing the Green New Deal.
Goals for this meeting. In this meeting, we'd like to get to know you a little bit better, as well as your vision at a local and national level. And what are your goals for this meeting? Do you have any specifics?
Well, learn about your organization and see how I can fit in, and also learning process for me to know other groups like yourselves are out there. I'm really proud of you guys to be able to do this, and you know, it's inspiring to know that you know, your generation is taking some action, because our generations haven't done such a good job, I don't think. So I appreciate you guys stepping up.
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot I was on mute for a second there. So if it would be all right, could we ask you some like questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I'll ask the first question.
Okay.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My internet is a little bit mad at me, I think. So where did I cut off?
You haven't asked any.
Okay. So to start off, could you like tell us a little bit about yourself and your platform?
Okay. So, born and raised in Sebastopol. My parents' father was an immigrant and came to California to seek a better life for his family. Eventually settled in Sebastopol. We grew up on an apple ranch, and we worked at the ranch. My father worked there for 30 years. Fortunate to grow up, and I went to Twin Hills and graduated from Annalee High School, and was fortunate to be a student body president at Annalee. I have two daughters. They both went to Annalee as well, and they're kind of grown up and independent and have their own jobs and doing really well. I talk to them every day, which is great. I have been involved with Sebastopol and Sonoma County, and actually throughout the world, really. I've been part of an organization called Active 2030, and that organization is kind of a leadership program for individuals between the ages of 20 to 40, and then you get kicked out, which is good because then the people behind you get to be leaders, and you don't have all the older people saying, well, this is the way we used to do it, you should do it this way. And the whole purpose of the organization is help underprivileged kids. So we have several clubs in Sonoma County. I was part of the Santa Rosa Club, it's also a Sebastopol club. And we have clubs throughout the US and also throughout Latin America. And I was fortunate to be the international president, which is the president of the entire organization. And got the opportunity to travel to some of those countries and see the work that they do in helping underprivileged kids. So that's been great. I've been part of the Sebastopol Planning Commission here for 10 years. And stepping up to run for city council, I've been asked in the past and have kind of declined in that a lot of time commitment, and I have other things going on. So was asked again, and based on what's going on with a lot of areas, I felt that it was my time to step up, and my natural transition to go from being on the planning commission to city council, to add some diversity and to add a voice at the table. I'm not running because the other incumbents maybe haven't done a good job or I can do a better job. I can do a different job. And I have background. So besides adding the diversity, I have the experience. I've worked with a lot of businesses as an advisor. And now businesses need a lot of help with that. My background is also as a financial planner. So I have that background to add to it. So I just feel that it's my time, my skills are kind of fit in. I've always appreciated the work that Sebastopol has done with climate change and always being ahead of the curve of other cities and organizations. So I'm ready to join that group and add my contributions.
That's really admirable. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your priorities would be if you got elected?
Yeah, so one of my, I've got really three main priorities. So one is as far as the health and safety of our community. So with everything going on with COVID. And so that includes making sure that our citizens are safe, that we do everything we can to stay that way. Also, what I call economic injury, which is injuries to the businesses that are struggling to stay afloat and survive. So help them. And then as part of that as well is the city is impacted financially. So getting some stability with that. And then, because if you don't have that stability, it's kind of hard to go beyond that. So there's a starting point. Homelessness and affordable housing is an important priority for myself. It's a difficult situation because there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for homeless. There's different categories. People need different types of help. So, I want to work with other nonprofits and experts to see what we can do to really make an impact and make a difference in that situation. So that's, the homelessness, affordable housing. That's really, and the COVID issues are really my main concerns at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you, how has your experience as, what was it, on the planning commission prepared you for a role on the city council?
Well, you know, it's, being on a planning commission, what it's done is we always refer to a document which is called the general plan. And the general plan is a document that pretty much kind of spells out what the community wants, where we want commercial zoning, you know, how we feel about the environment, you know, quality of life. So if you get a chance to look at that, that really is something that kind of is a guide. And oftentimes when a project comes to the city on the planning commission, that's referred to. And so I helped with updating the general plan. And so I got to know it very well. We went to it essentially page by page to look at what's there, what rules, and then also what's called the zoning ordinance book as well. Really exciting reading. But it's just all the different technology of the zoning, what's zoned, you know, how the buildings need to be set back, how the building material and so forth. So I think I've seen a lot of that. That's really given me experience. I've also worked with a lot of the staff and department heads in the city. So I think my learning curve is pretty short compared to others. And so I think that's all helped me.
That sounds really great. So now we're going to start asking more like climate related questions. So the first thing is, do you know what the Green New Deal pledge is?
I'm sorry, the what?
The Green New Deal pledge?
You know, I'm familiar with a lot of different pledges or initiatives. I try to keep up reading, but I don't know the details on all the ones because there's so many of them. So what I like to do is if something comes up, whether I'm on the city council or the planning commission, I always seek help experts in the area. So I'd be glad to hear more about it.
Okay. So a brief summary of it is that it's basically a pledge that like you will use your elected office to like basically push for all the principles and ideas in the Green New Deal.
Yeah, and which Sebastopol does already, and definitely something I would be behind because I think it's you know, it's the way to operate. And if you look at how the city has worked in the past, what the requirements are, it's definitely going in the right direction.
Great. So if we sent a follow-up email with that, would you be willing to sign it?
Absolutely.
Glad to hear that. So the other pledge is the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge. This one is more of a symbolic action because, but mainly what that one is basically saying that you will not take any contributions to your campaign from like fossil fuel lobbyists.
That's an easy one. I would not do that.
Great. So the next question is, what do you think a Green New Deal would look like for Sebastopol?
Well, I think it's just continuing what we've been doing. You know, it's kind of a small, if you look at the city and the impact we have, it's, you know, it's less than 2 miles. If you look at the, you know what we kind of control, even though, you know, Sebastopol, you know, we have maybe 7,800 individuals in town. We really service an area about 50,000 because people from the outlying areas and incorporated areas come in. So even though the things that we do may not seem to have a big impact, I think it's just showing the leadership and the initiative and setting an example is what's important. So you know, I think, you know, we defer to individuals such as yourself with that kind of expertise to when items come to the city council to help us to understand the pros and the cons, and what would be the right decision. So I think my part for that would be just to have an open mind to look into it. I growing up on an apple orchard gave me a real appreciation of nature, and that's who I am. I have been endorsed by the Sierra Club, and they're all about environmental issues, and so I'm proud to have that endorsement, and that adds to my background as well.
Great. Okay, so the next question is, what would be your plan to increase Sebastopol's fire preparedness and resiliency?
Well, I think we need to continue to have plans in place, and when the floods happen in the fire, I work for an organization, nonprofit called Small Business Development Center, which is part of this the Small Business Administration. So we are what we call first responders for economic injury for businesses. So it would be they need help as well, but from an individual standpoint, we need to continue to encourage people to have emergency kits, to be prepared from that standpoint, to get to know their neighbors so that they can help and see what their needs are, to know evacuation routes, really just to keep in communication with each other. And it's just something that has to be constantly reminded for people to be ready, that you can't rely on the grocery stores or being open during certain times. You have to have prepared depending on your unique situation. And I think also to maybe have a way for help parents relay that information to their kids. How do you talk about these things without really scaring them? How do you help them to also be prepared, but be kind of in a calm fashion? Additionally, being bilingual, I think we also need to step up information in Spanish and encourage that area of preparedness, which I don't think has been very much done, just because there's kind of a gap there. So that would be something I would certainly work towards.
Sounds really great. So the next question is, what would you do to create green and more inclusive schools in Sebastopol in terms of infrastructure, materials, practices, and curriculum?
Well, we have little control or effect on the schools, but I've always felt that the city and the community needs to have more of a interlocking connection with the schools. As an example, you go to the Annalee gym, there isn't even a single sign of Sebastopol there, right? There should be welcome to Sebastopol. And where that helps is when people come in for sporting events or whatever, that they can be encouraged to shop locally, to if you're going to get some food, do it locally. So kind of support from that standpoint. And then as far as the schools, I think it's helping them to coordinate. For example, one program I remember Annalee did not that long ago was the students were keeping track of all the different commutes and trying to see if they could organize, parents and different kids, because a lot of them go right by the same house or down the street. So I support however we could those initiatives. We really don't have the control, but I would basically encourage. And if there's things the city can do, we'll certainly would step up with that.
Okay. The next question is, how do you see your COVID recovery plan intersecting with a Green New Deal, and more specifically, a just transition?
Well, I think that we have to look at how safety and health fit in. I mean, I think it's just whether it's COVID, new Green Deal, everything has to kind of coexist. So as far as how they fit in, it's just a matter of education on that part, of people knowing what they can do and encouraging those types of things. So as far as, safety, the safety comes first, but not at the expense of the environment. So it's just a matter of helping people to understand how they can keep other people safe and healthy. Also, mental health, I think, is a really key proponent, because I always say that remind people that it's physical distance and not social distance. It should be physical distance, but social closeness, because you want to keep in contact with individuals and keep that relationship going, because a lot of people need it right now.
Awesome. So the next question is, what ideas do you have to create more affordable housing in Sebastopol?
Well, that's always a difficult situation. Being on the planning commission, I always see sometimes actions taken cause unintended consequences. As an example, let's say that the city wants to upgrade certain parts of the neighborhood or their utilities, those types of things. It's natural to create what's a fee, and what's called an impact fee. So a developer comes in, they build some houses, and then they have these fees added on so that the city can then do these infrastructures. Well, those fees and those costs, well-intentioned, aren't just absorbed by the developer or the person doing the project. They're passed on. So, I call those straws. So every little straw adds up, and you get to a point that it just gets so expensive, affordable housing to live here. I think that there's also opportunity. So there's not a whole lot of land, vacant land left for building. So we need to get creative. I think that surveying what we have, I think there's buildings and houses. Sometimes when I walk around town, I might see a house that looks kind of abandoned or not in very good shape, or maybe a building that could be redone to include living units. But for the owner of that property, it may be complex, it may be expensive to do that. So some kind of partnership to help add those living units to the supply that the city has. Also, I believe that things are changing with businesses and consumers' demand. So this whole process with the COVID, people staying at home, more people are shopping online, as an example. So things are changing, and businesses need to also transform and change with them. So helping them make that transition. And the point of that is that if less commercial space is needed, less building space is needed, to look at how we can convert those units to that. There's also what's called a secondary dwelling unit ordinance, which allows people to build what they used to call granny units. And again, making it easier for people that want to do that, because it gets complicated and it gets expensive. But where's the money going to come from? So I think that we need organizations to seek out grant money, or from state or federal, to try to help with those projects.
Awesome. So what actions have you already taken to create more affordable housing?
When sitting on the planning commission, when projects come to light, I've always tried to keep an eye on what the cost of the project is, and what they are building, adding to affordable housing. Sometimes there is a ordinance that 25% of housing projects have to be affordable housing. from that standpoint. But just, basically what is happening, how can we make this more affordable? How is it going to be offered to individuals? And I also look at things such as, is the space that we're building not only affordable, but could it accommodate, say, some senior citizens that, two-story living arrangements may not work for them? And is it also set up for walkability, also socially, or, kind of facing in a way that kind of more interaction? So, from that standpoint, looking at the general plan is trying just to make things smoother and, try to get more projects done and through.
Great. So what is your view on the Sebastopol Inn project?
It's a complicated issue. I understand, the goal of getting housing for 32 individuals. And that bottom line is that's very important. But there's more to it in that the county essentially can do whatever they want with that project. So they are interacting with Sebastopol to try and, be a good neighbor, so to speak. But ultimately, they could come in and, do whatever they like. So, of course, we want to get the space for individuals. I also am sensitive to the quality of life of people that are here as well. And so, as an example, if you were to have opened a business, you put in your sweat, your money, everything, your life savings, and you put together a business plan, and your business plan was to open up in that area, say the Gravenstein station. And part of the reason that you opened there was because you got a hotel there, and maybe you might depend on certain customers from that area. If that suddenly changes, and not to say it's going to change necessarily for the bad, but how does that affect the immediate business? So we can create the living arrangements for 32 people, but if it causes 2 or 3 people to then be homeless because they lose everything because of business, we have to be sensitive to that. So my thinking is that as we're talking with the county, I would like to see some written assurances of what happens if things don't go well there. What do we have a say on it? Because promises are made and they're well-intentioned. So someone could be totally well-intentioned to say, this is how we're going to run it, or this is what we're going to do, but then things change. So let's say now we have a new county supervisor. Well, that person doesn't have to necessarily or remember what those promises are made. So being in writing is important. But I think that ultimately we want to create the living for those individuals, but we also have to be sensitive to the quality of life of people that are here, and be fair to them as well. So that's why I'm saying it's a complicated situation. What's good about the project that makes me have some faith in it is that next door, the Village Park is kind of a similar situation where the city took over and the same nonprofit is running. But again, the nonprofit down the road could be somebody else and things might not be run the same. So I just want to see if there's a way to have that happen, because it's an opportunity, and yet be sensitive to the needs and quality of life of people around there and also that are here. And it's a balancing act. It's not easy.
Yeah, that's understandable. Okay, so we're going to move on to the BLM related section. So first of all, do you support defunding or divesting from the police? And if so, how would you make it happen in Sebastopol, especially taking the stacked budget into account?
Yeah, so I think, reviewing what their process as far as how their department is run. So, you know, I can't say that I'm automatically going to defund because I don't know in detail what are they using their funding for, you know, how they interact with the community. So, but I am for doing a review and seeing how they could be better integrated into the community. You know, born and raised in Sebastopol, for as long as I can remember, the police have always been kind of intimidating, not what I would consider, you know, friendly. If I'm driving down the street and there's a police car parked on the street watching cars go by, I want to feel safe and protected and like they're part of the community. I don't want to like tense up and feel like they're just waiting for me to mess up. I've been stopped coming in late at night for a license plate light being out or whatever situation. And there doesn't seem to be very much accountability or togetherness in the community. You know, they need to make people feel welcome. Yes, you know, that doesn't mean that we want them to be soft on crime. But I think that we need to work together. They're also part of our community, and the way that they get their funding is through our community tax dollars, tourist dollars, whatever. So they need to support that as well. And you know, we just need to talk about how they are interacting in the community. Their attitudes, can they be a little friendlier? Can they just smile once in a while? So I think as they're in the process of, I guess, picking a new chief of police. I don't know if the next council will be part of that or if that's going to happen before. But that's something that I definitely want to look into.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but City Council actually doesn't have any power over the chief of police. That's the city manager that does that. But that's actually something that I've wanted to change. At least have the City Council review the at least top 3 candidates for chief of police.
Yeah, I was surprised when I learned about that, and because I was asking, my question was, who is on this selection committee? And do you have anybody of color on there? Are you encouraging candidates, whether they're, you know, sexual orientation or color or whatever, to apply on there? And the fact that you're just allowing the city manager to make that choice definitely, to me, sounds odd. And what that does is it creates the atmosphere almost that they forget who they're working for. And so, you know, if the council is involved in that interview process, that selection process, that creates a kind of a sense of authority there. If it's just a city manager, then that's kind of it's looked on as their boss, and then the city council is kind of stepped out of it. So that is just really odd to me, and that's definitely something that I would work on changing. That's not right.
All right. So next question. What is your position on ICE, and how will you support undocumented residents in terms of environmental justice and in general?
You know, I think that it's just a matter of fair treatment. I think that we either need to support the immigration laws and rules, but we also need to help those that are already here. And I sat on some scholarship committees for individuals, and it just blows me away that I'm reading through the history and the resumes of these students, and they come to this country, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, not speaking a word of English. And by the time they're seniors in high school, they're like at the top of their class. And it's like, how the heck is that possible? But that's an example of that community and what we need to support that. Growing up, we always had undocumented workers coming to my family's home because they knew that we would provide some shelter for them. My dad would go try to find work for them, and they're hardworking people. And so I think they just need to be fairly treated and helped to integrate into society. But they contribute more than people realize. It's not a coincidence that when you look at the makeup of, say, homeless individuals, that few of them are Hispanic or Latin, and the reason behind it is because they have a strong family unit, and people kind of take care of themselves from that standpoint. As far as how that relates to the environment, it goes to, again, affordable housing and where is that located and what do they have in place. Individuals come here. I travel to Mexico. I used to at least once a year, and see conditions there, and it helped me to understand when people come here to this country, that compared to where they were, it's like, oh, but I get a room and with a wood floor that's kind of dirty and stuff. This is paradise compared to where I came from. And all I have to do is work and I get paid. Sign me up. And you kind of start to understand that, but it doesn't mean that that they shouldn't be treated with dignity.
All right. How will you incorporate Indigenous leadership into this, specifically in terms of land management, the fires?
Could you elaborate on that? When you say Indigenous?
So this is definitely a hard question. Now, especially during the movement for, we're really focused on having Indigenous people and people of color step up and kind of take the forefront. And it's especially important to get the voice of our Indigenous people in our community and let them have a say in our government. And they really important ideas related to the fires. So if you sort of like how we could kind of empower that party.
I think just encourage participation. Oftentimes being part of the community, you see kind of the same faces and the same people coming to speak out, and it's you don't really get a good cross section of other individuals. And that's what, as I mentioned in the beginning, what's encouraged me to step up is to create that as an example. And I believe in a hand up, not a handout. And helping other individuals, Indigenous, whatever, to have a representation in the city. When I grew up, there was a lot of Hispanic, Latino families around, but they've been priced out. And again, some intentions. If you look around Sebastopol, it's a nice community to live in, but it's expensive. And we created that double-edged sword for that. It's hard for individuals to take the time to participate. They're just trying to make a living. And how do you get them? That's being part of and speaking out. Unfortunately, for a lot of them, it's just low on their list because they got to take care of the kids. They got to pay the rent and get food on the table and that kind of thing. So, but I think it's just encouraging individuals, setting examples is really the way to get more participation, to support their ideas.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, so now can you tell us a little bit about the work you've done as a founding member of the Sonoma County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
Mhm. So initially, we saw that there was a need for that organization to come together, and really that's kind of evolved to another organization called Los Cien. If you're familiar with it, but it's a lot of uh, uh, businesses, individuals that are part of that. And what we've tried to do is just integrate events, marketing. There's a lot of, I work with primarily with Hispanic businesses that either prefer speaking Spanish or that are trying to reach out to that community. And I consider myself um, not only bilingual, but bicultural, which means that I understand, a lot of their, how they think, how, how they feel about government or organizations and so forth, family, and help to foster that. So I think just as far as the Hispanic Chamber, it's just a matter of bringing those groups together. And I think what really has, what I've seen is kind of the success of the Chamber is I was also part of the Santa Rosa Chamber at one point when I was living in Santa Rosa. And it was such a contrast. You go to a Santa Rosa Chamber event, and yeah, it's okay. People kind of handing out cards, and it's fine, right? Business wise. You go to Hispanic Chamber meeting, and it's jovial. It's just more entertainment, food. It's just more lively. And so the Hispanic Chamber, just because it was called that, didn't mean that non-Hispanics could join. It was open to everybody. So what was great is it allowed that integration of other individuals to join in and kind of be part of that. And I think that kind of helped to foster that goodwill.
Yeah, that's super impressive and inspiring. So last question on this topic. How have you personally supported the movement for Black lives? And how would you take initiative in supporting Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the future?
Well, I think I support by, being aware of what their injustices are, to make sure that I add to their voice whenever I can. I have stood side by side. I've got friends that of all shapes and colors, and try to encourage them to participate whenever possible. And I think that just putting the word out, that's again by me stepping up. I'm doing my part by stepping up and representing, and then hopefully getting to a position of leadership that I can make a difference and make a change. And that's probably the best impact that I can do. I can march, and do all that and add my voice. But I think that more constructive for me right now is to get myself in a position where I can do things that make a difference.
Really quick, I wanted to ask, what's your position on Measure P and Measure O that are coming out?
So P is the, you talking about the tax measures or?
I guess, so P is the Evelyn Cheatham ordinance.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Evelyn Cheatham ordinance, Sonoma County wide, about like establishing, basically it's about the ILRO and giving it like more power for like community oversight of the police.
Yeah, I'm kind of in general familiar with the initiatives. I kind of difficult for me to kind of take a position until I really understand kind of what they are, because right now main information is just kind of general information, and it's just something that I haven't had a chance to take a really deep look at, but I plan to learn more about them. It's hard to know everything about everything. So just being.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I always feel like it's easy for people to just, and especially like with general information, but it's really important to really understand what specific measures and ordinances and whatever mean, and especially in particular.
Yeah, and I think I use the example just like we were talking about the hotel conversion. I'm asked all the time, so where do you stand on that, right? It's not that simple. Of course, I stand on providing living space for individuals that are homeless, but it's not a yes or no. And, unfortunately, some people get to that position. Yes, we want to provide housing, and house doesn't matter. No, we don't want to do that because it affects our community a certain way. So, I always try to see both sides, and sometimes it's just more complicated than that.
Will you involve and include youth voices in the government?
By interacting with people like you and making myself available to speak about that. I'm always interested to hear what other generations or circle of friends or people, what they're thinking of, because it's enlightening. And I'm open-minded. I like different types of music. I always kind of want to find out about things that are going on. You got to be open-minded. So I think it's just to encourage, to listen, to be respectful to the opinions, to look into them, because it's often first interaction of a lot of individuals is if it's something that's don't understand, uncomfortable, not outside their wheelhouse, so to speak, it's generally uncomfortable. But I want to hear how did you come to that conclusion? What's your viewpoint? Why do you see that? Where is this going? Even like technology, how are people communicating? What's the going thing? And I always feel like I'm 2 or 3 steps behind. Fortunately, my daughters kind of help me sometimes. I'm like, Dad, no, that's not happening anymore. You got to go this direction. But I'm always open-minded, and I appreciate that. I always have a good rapport with younger individuals.
Awesome. So just for moving away from the BLM related questions, so what accomplishments are you most proud of?
By far is raising my daughters to be independent, self-sufficient, and have a great relationship with them, because that's not easy, and that's not for all families. So nothing else really comes second to that.
Awesome. So what is your overall vision for Sebastopol?
I think it's just the continue the path, the good things that we're doing. Be sensitive to different viewpoints. Sometimes the loudest voices aren't necessarily the right voices. You have to be aware of that. I think also that sometimes Sebastopol is too closed-minded sometimes, in that we are, we're globally concerned about the environment and those types of things. In the past, there hasn't been as much interaction, say, with the city council and other outside organizations. You have to create relationships, have decent relationship with county supervisors, with state legislators, with other council people, because that helps you to get funding. It helps you to share ideas and issues that they're going through. I think that more of that is needed for Sebastopol. It's funny because Sebastopol kind of has a reputation of, being difficult to deal with, or people are quirky. And yeah, I'm proud of that. I'm fine with that.
So, kind of wrapping up, what would be the first thing you would want to do if you got elected?
I think just first thing I would do is review the processes, the budgets, just kind of get myself acquainted with the tools, how things work. And that's, just that learning process, because that will help me then to formulate goals and decisions. It's easy to say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but realistically, what's possible, and what makes sense, what doesn't, why are things done a certain way. Maybe there's a reason for it, maybe there isn't. So really just maybe stir things up a little bit.
All right. Is there anything else in particular that you want to share with us?
Well, if you support some of the ideas and things that I've been going through, this Saturday we are doing a walk in the neighborhood and doing door hangers, just to kind of tell people about what I'm doing and what I stand for. If you're interested, you can go to my website and sign up as a volunteer. The bottom line is we are meeting at Hot Monk at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. And we're going to do a safe walkabout and distribution. Normally we would go door to door and talk to people, but obviously with things going on, we're just going to safely distribute some recyclable material, kind of get the word out. I'm not as well known as some of the other candidates, simply because a lot of what I've been involved in was maybe more Santa Rosa or more Sebastopol. But, I am, my reasoning is the diversity, but that's an aside. Besides the diversity, I have experience, I have leadership, and I have ideas and ways to interact. I think I'm fairly skilled at communicating with different types of organizations and diffusing situations. So I'll just leave you with that.
All right. So final thing we want to ask you, would you be interested in pursuing our endorsement?
I certainly would. I think what you guys stand, I'd be proud to add your endorsement.
That's great to hear. Thank you. So we'll need to check back with our hub about this first, but we are considering endorsing one or two candidates.
Okay.
So we're just considering possibilities right now, but you seem like a very well-rounded and interesting candidate who cares about Sebastopol. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. It was really nice to be able to talk with you about all this.
Yeah, anytime. I look forward to continuing our discussions and learning from you as well, and helping educate me on issues that come up. So when I'm on the council, hope you guys reach out.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. All right, you too. All right, take care.
Bye.
Okay.
That went well, I think.
Yes. Oh, should we turn off the recording or should we keep recording?